There's something different about old villages, a kind of silence that feels like it remembers everything. Even the things people tried to forget walk down those empty paths long enough, and you start to feel eyes on your back, like the place itself is waiting for you to notice what's wrong. These stories come from people who did notice and wished they hadn't. Tonight, we're stepping into the kind of villages where the doors stay locked after sunset, where lanterns flicker without wind, and where footsteps follow you even when you're alone. These are 3 chilling, true stories from forgotten places. And if you've ever wondered what hides in an old village after dark, you're about to find out. You ever been to one of those villages that feels like time just stopped, where the air's heavy and even the birds don't sing after dark? That's how it was in my grandfather's village, a small place tucked deep in the hills of northern England. He used to tell me stories from there, but one in particular, it never left me. It was about the lantern keeper. Back in the 1960s, the village didn't have proper street lights. At night, the only thing lighting the road between the fields was an old iron lamp, the kind that needed to be lit by hand. And every evening, like clockwork, a man named Thomas Hewer walked the lane with his lantern, checking that the flames stayed alive till dawn. He lived alone at the edge of the village, near the woods everyone avoided. People said he was a quiet man, polite but distant, always smelled faintly of kerosene, never missed a night, no matter the weather. Until one autumn evening, he didn't come back. It was raining hard that night, thunder shaking the ground. When the storm finally passed, someone noticed that the lantern by the mill road was still dark. The village warden went to Thomas's house to check on him, but the door was wide open. The fire had burned out. His dinner sat untouched, and his lantern, the one he always carried, was gone. They searched the woods for hours, but all they found were muddy footprints that led to the edge of the old quarry and stopped. No body, no lantern, just a deep black pit full of rainwater. They said he must have slipped, drowned. But the strange thing, for 3 nights after that, people saw a faint yellow light moving through the fields, the same path Thomas always walked. And sometimes, if you stood near the quarry after dark, you could hear footsteps splashing in the mud and the squeak of a lantern handle swinging in the rain. Years later, around 1982, my grandfather moved back there, into a small cottage near that same road. He was a practical man, didn't believe in ghost stories. But one night, while walking home from the pub, he saw it too. He said it was drizzling, and the fields were covered in mist. Then, out of nowhere, a yellow glow appeared by the bend, steady, moving slow. He thought it was another villager with a torch, so he called out, "Evening, out late, are ya?" No answer. The light kept coming closer, but there was no sound, no footsteps, no breath, just that faint squeak, like metal brushing against metal. He said his stomach dropped. The glow stopped about 10 feet away. He raised his hand to shield his eyes, and that's when he saw it. There was no man, no face, just the shape of a lantern, floating in midair, swinging gently as if someone invisible was holding it. The flame inside flickered once, then went out. Everything went black. He ran home, locked the door, and didn't speak a word about it for years. A few months later, a boy from the village, 16 maybe, was dared by his friends to spend the night near the quarry. He brought a sleeping bag, a sandwich, and a flashlight. In the morning, they found the sandwich and the bag, but no sign of the boy. What they did find was a single lantern, rusted, still dripping wet, hanging from a low tree branch right by the edge of the quarry. When they pulled it down, the wick was still damp with kerosene, fresh. Now, here's the part that always gets me. In 1999, the council finally sealed that quarry for safety reasons. While they were putting up the fence, one of the workers uncovered an old chain buried in the mud, attached to the remnants of a lantern handle. The metal had corroded, but the initials TH were still faintly visible. Thomas Hewer, the worker who found it? He didn't stay long. Quit the job a week later. He said every night when he tried to sleep, he'd hear footsteps squelching in wet earth outside his window, always stopping right under the light post. When he finally worked up the courage to look, the bulb above his door was swinging back and forth, like someone had just brushed past it. No wind, no one there. They still say that on stormy nights, if you drive past that road, you'll see a light ahead, just one old yellow lantern swaying gently in the dark. Follow it, and it'll lead you right to the edge of the quarry. But if the light ever goes out, don't move, don't breathe, because that means the lantern keeper has noticed you. When I was a kid, my mother warned me about the old stone well behind her childhood home. "Don't ever go near it," she said, her voice tight, eyes flicking toward the clearing where it stood. I thought she was joking, telling a story to scare a child, but I wasn't wrong to be afraid. The well was ancient. Moss and ivy clung to the stones, and even on bright summer days, a chill seemed to hang in the air around it. Villagers whispered that it went too deep. So deep, they said, a coin dropped down would never hit water. And worse, some said it whispered back. I only realized how real that warning was when I went back there years later. It began for my mother when she was 12. One summer night, she woke to a faint voice outside her bedroom window. Not wind, not animals. Someone whispering her name. Clara? Close. Too close. Her bedroom window overlooked the back field, beyond which the old well crouched in shadow. She froze. The whisper stopped. Then a slow, rhythmic drip began, water falling onto stone. She peeked outside. Moonlight revealed the well clearly, and beside it, a figure, tall, shadowed, motionless, one hand resting on the stones. No face, no movement, just standing, watching. She ran to the door, but it was locked from the inside. She banged on the frame, screamed, and the figure didn't move. The dripping continued, and then, suddenly, it stopped. The next morning, she told her mother, no laughter, no scolding, only, "Don't go near it again." Promise me curiosity got the better of her. The following afternoon, she ventured to the well. Sunlight made it seem harmless, just a circle of mossy stones, ivy curling over the edges. She leaned over and whispered softly, "Hello." Nothing, then faintly, "Hello." Not her voice. Lower, slower, rough, mocking. She jumped back, heart pounding, ran home crying. That night, the voice returned. "Clara." Her window was shut, yet water dripped near her bed. Her father rushed in, floorboards wet, curtains moving. Outside, muddy footprints led from the well to the window. The air smelled damp and earthy, like the soil itself was breathing. My mother told me that smell always stuck with her. The iron tang of wet soil, the cold dampness creeping into her hair, her skin. She said it felt alive, like something was watching from below. A week later, after a storm, the family's water turned black, thick, foul-smelling. Her father went to investigate, following the pipe toward the clearing. He never returned. They found his flashlight beside the well, still on. The lid was open. The rope snapped. Villagers searched. They lowered a weighted rope into the well. 60 feet deep, but it didn't touch the bottom. One man swore he heard heavy breathing echoing from below. That night, they sealed it with a heavy iron grate. Even then, some villagers claimed they could hear faint dripping and whispers rising from the earth during heavy rain. Years later, my mother moved away. She tried to forget, but during storms, she said she could still hear voices in the pipes, faint, wet whispers calling her name. Clara. She never stayed home alone during a storm. She said it made her skin crawl, her chest tighten. Some nights, she'd lie awake for hours, listening, and every so often, she swore she could hear a faint splash, like someone moving just under the floorboards. When she passed away last year, I went back to the cottage. The garden was overgrown, the well cracked and rusted. Standing near it, I felt the same chill my mother described. From deep below came a steady drip. The air was thick, heavy, and smelled of wet earth, like the smell before a flood. I leaned closer, a whisper. "Don't look down," her voice. Then another joined, low, wet, dragging. "Come closer." Something splashed, like a hand striking water. My heart raced. I ran, slipped in mud, scrambled to the house, never looking back. When I glanced over my shoulder, the grate over the well moved, as if something was pushing from below. They eventually filled the well with concrete, but villagers still claim that during heavy rain, black water seeps from the ground and whispers rise from below. Some swear that if you stand too close, you can feel the earth tremble beneath your feet. Others say the water moves unnaturally, almost alive, as if something deep inside is stirring, waiting. If you ever find an old well in a forgotten field, cold, silent, and dark, don't lean over, don't speak, don't even breathe too loudly, because if it whispers back, you won't be the only one listening. And sometimes, the voice doesn't just call a name, it calls yours. When I was 15, my father sent me to spend a week with my grandmother in a village far from the city. The house was old, the kind where the floorboards groaned under your weight, and every door seemed to whisper secrets of the past. But what made the place truly unsettling wasn't the age or the creaking floors. It was the widow's window. My grandmother's neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, had lived alone in a stone cottage across the lane. Everyone in the village said she had lost her husband tragically, decades before. And ever since, she never closed that upstairs window, no matter the season. People whispered about lights flickering there at night. Some even said she stared out, silently watching the village, never blinking, never leaving the room. I didn't believe in those stories, of course. I was 15, skeptical, rational, but the first night I spent in that village changed everything. It was late. Rain pounded the roof and the wind rattled the shutters. I had just returned from helping my grandmother with the garden and had gone to bed early. But sleep didn't come. Something kept drawing my eyes toward the window across the street. There she was, Mrs. Hargrove, or at least her silhouette. She stood by that window, perfectly still. Even in the storm, her black dress clung to her figure, and the shape of her hair caught the occasional flash of lightning. Her gaze felt heavy, personal, like she was looking directly at me, though I was across the lane. I shook my head, trying to convince myself it was just shadows playing tricks. Maybe the branches rattling outside were forming a figure. Around midnight, there was a knock at my window. I froze. The wind was strong, so it could have been a branch. I told myself that. But then, there it was again. 3 soft taps, slow, deliberate. I grabbed a flashlight and pressed it against the glass. Nothing. Not a tree branch, not an animal, just the garden, drenched in rain, the fog curling in the corners of the yard. Then I heard it, a voice, soft, almost a whisper. Why are you looking? My heart stopped. It wasn't a child's voice, or my grandmother's. It was hers, Mrs. Hargrove. But the sound came from inside my room. The voice repeated, firmer this time. Why are you looking? I dropped the flashlight. It rolled under the bed. I wanted to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. The next morning, I told my grandmother what happened. She didn't scold me or laugh. She just said, "Don't go outside after dark, and especially don't look at her window." I asked why. She looked away, biting her lip, and whispered, "She hasn't left that room in years, not since her husband disappeared. People think she's mourning, but some say she waits for him." I didn't understand. How could someone stand by a window for decades? That night, I couldn't resist. Curiosity burned too strong. I slipped out of bed and crept to the edge of the lane. The rain had stopped, leaving a wet, misty silence. The window was open, curtains swaying lightly in the wind. I watched her. She was still there, still staring. Then she turned her head slightly, and for the first time, I saw her face. Pale, empty, hollow eyes that didn't blink. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. And then a hand lifted, pointing directly at me. I stumbled back. My flashlight fell again, hitting the wet ground. When I looked back, she was gone. But the window, it remained open, curtains fluttering, as if she had never moved at all. I ran back to the house, locked myself in, trembling. I didn't sleep that night. And in the morning, when I peeked outside, the lane was empty. But I noticed something strange. Footprints in the mud. Not my own. Tiny, delicate, leading from her house to mine, then stopping just short of my grandmother's door. I told my grandmother again. She didn't answer for a long time. Finally, she said, "Some windows. They're not meant to be looked into." Not by the living. I never understood what she meant until I left the village. But even now, decades later, whenever I drive past that lane in the rain, I can swear I see a dark figure at that same widow's window, watching, waiting, silent. And sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I can almost hear her whisper, "Why are you looking?" Even now, the memory makes the hairs on my arms stand on end, and I never look at windows the same way again.